Welcome to this video. In this video I'm going to show you how I assemble metal miniatures, and I'm going to go over some tips to make your life easier when you're making metal models. And this one is a Bisto 9 for Cater on the game War Machine. Here you can see the contents. I'm going to open it up. Metal, I feel it's a little bit more difficult to work with than plastic or resin. It has certainly more work to do, and the first thing that I'm going to do is, if you feel the metal miniature, you can feel the little release agent. It feels a little bit slippery, and what we have to do first is to go and wash it up. So that's what I'm going to do now. So step 1, you have to wash your miniatures. It may be a little bit of a hassle. You may think that this is not really necessary, that it's just an overreaction or something, but washing the miniatures is very important so that the miniatures stick. Sometimes if you have trouble with your glue, it's not really your glue. Sometimes the mold release agent is still on the miniature and it's not letting you fix the miniature together. And also when you prime it, the primer may just rub off of the miniature very easily. So what you have to do, just go to the sink and run some warm water. Be sure to make it warm, and well, the best that you can do is have some warm soapy water, and just make some soap with your hands and put your miniatures in a container. I had this from the kitchen. It's not a big deal. It's just a little plastic container with metal pieces on it, and I'm just washing the soapy water onto them, and then you can just drop the miniatures off. I use my fingers, but you can use a little scrubber or something. But I don't feel it's really necessary to be very specific. Just run some hot water onto them and a little bit of soap, and that's pretty much it. Next comes clipping the excess flash from the miniatures. This step is fairly simple. You just need some sort of clippers. You may have your hobby clippers, but I use these electrical ones, and you just have to snap off the parts of the miniatures. This is not from the Bisto 9 model, of course. This is from another model, but I just wanted to demonstrate because the other one doesn't come in a sprue. But I wanted to just demonstrate you this step. This is fairly simple. Just try to stay away from the details of the models, as you can see here, and just clip off the excess flash. That's it. Next comes cutting away imperfections on the model. This is the first dangerous step on assembling metal miniatures. You practically have to use the hobby knife, and if you find yourself using too much strength, you are probably going to cut yourself. So be very, very, very careful. Pewter is not a very hard metal. It's actually very soft, and you can cut it off with an X-Acto knife. So here you can see a little imperfection on the model. I'm going to try and just cut it off. As you can see, it's not very difficult, and I'm going to show you how to cut without being in very much danger. You may see in this miniature I'm going to clip a piece off, and you may think that this is a very dangerous way to hold the X-Acto knife, but it's actually the most secure that I have ever tried. I've never cut myself when I'm using it like this. So you can push on the miniature and be sure that the X-Acto knife is not going to touch your finger. Just make sure to put your thumb below the blade. Next, using files. Using files is a little bit more complicated than it appears. You can use very different shapes for different surfaces. You can use a round for a curve, or a flat for a flat surface, but you basically have to rub the file against the surface in one motion forwards. You have to be patient and do it this way, because if you start using it like if it was a saw going both ways, you will start making the surface a lot more rough, and that's not what you were looking for with the files. You were just trying to get rid of mold lines and little details here and there. Next comes gluing. Gluing is the most simple of steps. You just use your normal super glue. I use Sapagap, which is a gap filling super glue, and you just have to apply it on the surface. There are many surfaces that are just no-brainers, like this piece here. You just apply the super glue around it and clamp them in just with your fingers. Some people prefer to use accelerators with their super glue. I personally don't, because I want to take my time and make sure that the bond is going to be strong, because the accelerators are not going to make better bonds, they are just going to cure the super glue faster. And I'd rather take my time and do it right than trying to make it quick and not bonding anyway. Green stuff. You can use guacamole or green apples or any sort of green stuff. No, seriously, you buy this 2-part epoxy that is yellow and blue, and you mix it up, and when it cures very solid. This is especially useful when you have 2 parts that are not bonding correctly. They're a little bit flimsy and they move around a lot, like this. You make a green stuff sandwich. You use a little bit of the super glue and put it on the part that you're intending to glue. Then just put a little ball of green stuff that is going to fill the gap between the 2 parts, and then put a little bit more of the super glue and just glue them together. This way you fill the gap, and when it cures it's going to bond very strongly. Allow 4 to 6 hours for completely curing to the green stuff and also to the super glue. Scratching. When you have 2 parts that are practically the same shape and they can bond just as they are, it's a good idea to scratch the surface to give it a rough texture. This increases the friction between them and makes a bit more solid bond. Of course, you can use the green stuff in this case as well. It's very strong and very effective. But some parts, like little sockets, you can just scratch them both and just glue them in. It's very easy, and it's a lot more strong than just gluing as they are. And finally, and the most common, pinning. You can buy yourself a pinning vise and some brass rods and the little pinning thingies. Pinning drills, that's the name. And when you have your miniature like this, and I'm using a 0.5 millimeter, it's a very tiny one, and I want to make this bond a little bit more secure. So what I'm going to do is just pin. Use your pinning vise and be very careful, because this step is also dangerous. I'm going to drill a little pilot hole that is going to serve as a guide for the pinning vise to go on as close as the center as possible of the little socket here, and start drilling. Don't use too much force, because the drill is going to slip and it's going to perforate your finger, and we don't want that. Also, the drill is so small that it can break. It can bend and break if you use too much force. So use a moderate amount of force, and consistently just start drilling until you see a hole. Usually a couple of millimeters or just 1 millimeter is enough to really put the brass rod in. So you do this to both the arm and the socket, and that's it. Once that's done, you can use the brass rod, or if you're using the 0.85 millimeter, you can use a paper clip and apply a little bit of glue. You may want to move a little bit fast when you're using small parts like this, because the glue is gonna fill the gap, and if it dries, it's just going to plug the hole. So just try to put the brass rod in here, and you can see it just stays in there, and use the clippers to clip it to the desired length. Usually it's very short, just the couple of millimeters that you drilled on the other side should be sticking out, or if you wanted to make it more secure and you made it deeper than the desired length as you drilled, Then you can use another bit of super glue and stick the arm in the brass rod with the hole that you made previously. And this is pretty much it. This makes a very strong bond that resists a little bit more tension than regular gluing. And that's it. So that's it for this video. Here you can see completed models that I assembled in this video, and they're pretty tough, they're pretty sturdy, no problems at all. I hope this video helped you out, that it was informative and helpful, and that you are able to build your own miniatures on metal if you were having trouble. Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video if you do, and comment, subscribe to see more videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching.